what is a BCI, or brain-computer interface? At its core, BCI creates a direct communication pathway between your brain and an external device. No movement required. About 30 years ago, when I was studying computer science, I had a professor at the time who I thought was quite futuristic. And he used to make this comment that we humans, we interact with our devices in such archaic ways. He was pointing to the keyboard that, oh, I have to type commands. And he used to posit that in the future, I'm going to have this natural way of communication that the keyboard is going to be an extension of my of his body. What he was truly talking about was a brain-computer interface. The key insight with BCI here is that the brain is essentially an organic electrical computer. Every thought, every intention generates electrical signals. BCI captures those signals and translates those into commands. Now, there are three approaches to BCI. There is the invasive one, which is the Neuralink's N1 implant as an example. It is surgically implanted into brain tissue. The pros are, of course, you get the highest quality of signal, but the con, of course, is that it requires brain surgery. We are talking about tiny electrodes that are threaded into your motor cortex. There is the partially invasive, such as the precision neurosciences layer 7. It sits on the surface of the brain, not penetrating it. Still requires surgery to open the skull, doesn't really go into the brain tissue. This is a good balance, if I may call it that, of signal quality and low risk. And then there is the non-invasive. Think of this as the EEG headsets, like what gamers use, no surgery at all. The signal quality is much lower, but zero risk. This is where companies such as NeuroSky and Emotive devices reside. Fun fact, all of this started in 1924 when a German psychiatrist, Hans Berger, discovered electrical activity in the brain, and he invented the EEG. 100 years later now, we are putting chips in people's heads. Here's who is racing to wire up your brain. 6 key players, each with a different approach. The gorilla in the room, of course, is Neuralink with a $9 billion valuation. Elon's company. Fully invasive. They drill a hole in your skull and a robot sews ultra-thin threads directly into your motor cortex. 1,024 electrodes. Highest bandwidth approach. 12 humans implanted as of late 2025, accumulating over 15,000 hours of use. They're planning high volume production this year in 2026. There is then Synchron. Think of that as the stent for your brain company. Their device goes through the jugular vein, no open brain required. This is backed by Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. This has a lower resolution for signal compared to Neuralink, 16 electrodes versus 1,024, but way less invasive. They've just partnered with NVIDIA for AI integration. And by the way, they also demonstrated iPad control with Apple Vision. The next one is at a $520 million valuation is Precision Neuroscience. This is founded by a former Neuralink co-founder. Their layer 7 device, as they call it, sits on the brain surface. As I said, it's minimally invasive still, but it still provides you a higher signal resolution. They've just got their first FDA approval for a wireless BCI. That is huge for commercialization if you're so inclined. Then there is BlackRock Neurotech. This is the OG, if I can call it that, of this space. They have the longest running implant, just over 9 years in one patient alone. Strong research pedigree. Their device called Connexus. This goes about 1.5 millimeters into the cortex. The last two on the list is Merge Labs. I'm going to call the wild card to be the Merge Labs. This is backed by Sam Altman and Alex Blania, using ultrasound simulation of genetically modified neurons. This is a completely different approach. No surgery required at all, potentially. This is very early stages, but they have massive funding that they've received. And then finally, there is the European Union backed called InBrain. They are using graphene-based brain-computer interface. They've just received 4 million euros from EU's Purity Chip Initiative. Graphene could offer advantages in biocompatibility as well as signal quality. So the question in the next few years is going to be, Who wins? Whether it's the high invasive and high bandwidth win, minimally invasive, or on adoption. So we'll see.